Hello everyone. Now let us study the next concepts in water resource management and planning. So the next step is elementary phases of analysis of framework. Now if you have to plan the water resources properly and manage them, then we have basically three steps. There is the inception, development and selection. Okay, so in this flow chart you can just see uh, first is the inception process, and this is the inception process, and this is the inception process, this is the development process, and third one is the selection process. Okay, so in the inception process it is nothing but it is the first stage. That's why it's called as the initial analysis. So it is in the name itself, that is, it's called as inception. So inception is nothing but the first approach, wherein all the characteristics of how to reserve the water and how to manage the water, and at the same time maintain the quality of the water is studied here. And there are policies developed by the institution and organization also, in order to check what are the different methods and means to conserve and save water. And then there are at the same time problems also are studied. At the same time problems are studied, and measures to be taken are also all planned in this category, that is called as a inception. So with this parameters, we'll check the approaches. So it is like the given data. From this, we'll check what are the different approaches, like how to analyze the steps, and then any analysis conditions are to be used, computational framework, and finally the work plan. So studying all these parameters will make an inception report. So inception report is the first report wherein the analysis of any uh, data given is checked. And then the second stage is the development stage. So in this development stage, it is basically the data collection and the modeling. So again, the data collection is obtained from the natural resource system, and socio-economic system, and administrative institutional system. So we have already studied about this. So data collection and modeling is done in this development. So administrative and institutional system is like the central system, and the natural source system is like the rivers from where we get the water, and then socio-economic is a human dependent. So natural resource system and socio-economic system are dependent on each other, and how to manage between these two is planned by the administrative institutional system. And then, having known all the factors, we'll prepare a preliminary analysis. So in the preliminary analysis, we're going to check what are the problems faced and what are the measures to be taken, and after which the screening of measures also done. So that's what it's called as an interim report. So interim report, it's like a interval. Okay, it's like in the meantime. So when you're studying this parameter inception, and with this analysis we are doing this development, so it is interim report is made. If there is any flaw, again we are going to check this here. Again, the decision makers, you can see this. Okay, so ultimately, whatever approaches are made, it is all checked by the decision maker and the stakeholders. So, decision maker are nothing but these are the representatives who plan the water resource management. Okay, and then again, interim reports is made, and again, it is checked thoroughly by these decision makers here in this. And then in the selection process, again, the detailed analysis done, as in many models are created, and there are alternative strategies how to uh, conserve, protect, and reuse the water without wasting. And so these alternative strategies are checked with its impact assessment. So whatever alternative strategies are made, the result is that is the impact is assessed earlier only, and there is a presentation of all these reports, and then with all this data we make a final report. So basically these are three reports: inception report, interim reports, and final report. So all these three reports are studied properly by the decision makers, and then again if there are any problems, again it goes triggers back to the first phase. So again, inception, development, selection. So this is the cycle. So all the parameters are discussed by the decision makers and the stakeholder representative. Okay, so these are the again same detailed analysis. First, inception, objectives are specified, then policy is analyzed, and the work plan is done. And then in the development phase, there are different solutions are used to plan this WRM, water resource management. And then the same thing again, the data is collected, modeling is done, and any preliminary tools are to be for the analysis. If any preliminary tools are to be used, it is all done here. And then the interactions is carried out by the interim report. So this is checked, and finally the interim report is made. Then the third process is the selection. So in this process, there is a limited amount of strategies. So limited amount of strategies, that is the best strategies used by the decision makers, and the final selection is done. And then, so main important of the selection is design the strategy, evaluate the strategy, and presentation. So main thing, whatever strategy is finalized, that is designed thoroughly and it's evaluated for the results, and the final result is used as a final report. Okay, so the next concept is analysis of planning and management. So whenever we're analyzing, we're making any plan and trying to manage it. So there are two cycles. So whatever report is made for planning and management, so there are two cycles. One is called as a comprehension cycle, and the second one is feedback cycle. So in the comprehension cycle, whatever the decision makers have made the policies that will run within the cycling. That means they've made a series of uh, strategies, plans, policies, legislations, laws. So all those are uh, studied in this parameter, and any correction is there, it is done in this cycle only. So that's why it's called comprehension cycle. And then the feedback cycles. In the feedback cycles, again, which implies the returning to the earlier phase. That means if there is any problem here, again the feedback cycles goes to this comprehensive cycle, and then any feedback is made. So if there is any correction here, it is made through this feedback cycle. In the comprehension cycle, the strategies are planned, and in feedback cycles, they are again, if there is any problem, it is again returned through the, it is fed back to the comprehension cycle. So these are the two important cycles. Okay, next is adaptive integrated policy. Okay, in this adaptive integrated policy, um, whatever is running through the current situation, the same thing is adapted based on the land use and water required, water available, and people use. So in this adaptive integrated policy, it is the first issue. The first issue is to have the product desired. So our product desired is the water, and it should be available in a good quality, quantity, and the requirement is endless. So it should be available throughout. So this is the main primary criteria. The product should be desired and it should be available throughout. And to manifest with this, there is a report made for the discussion and how to maintain and manage the water resources issues. Okay, whatever issues and the options available. So here list of strategies are made, and the main important thing is water should be planned for future use also. So there should be many options as such. to make it open for the future generations and future use. And thus, an adaptive uh, integrated policy is nothing but it should be adaptive to the new information and respond to the new sudden surprises. So if there is any drought happening, so water available should be planned. If in case there are floods, again the same thing, in case if there are floods, at the same time it should be adaptive to all the new situations occurring. So okay, then now to safeguard this water, so there are many models made. So again, the models developed are protecting the economic as well as ecological interactions. So whatever water is available, it has to be used, reused, and at the same time it should be economical, and also it should be ecological. Now ecological means, again, it should not it should balance the ecology system, it should not create any problem in the ecology. So all the parameters have to be studied, and it is not only the water here, it is the water as well as the land has to be managed, because water is surrounded with land, and thus wherever there's a water body, it is obviously occupying the land. So both have to be studied and managed properly. Okay, so now there are series of questions um, here. That is, if okay, if you're maintaining land and water, so what are the hydrological, ecological, and economical consequences? So hydrological, ecological, again with the ecology system and economic at the same time. So if there are all these parameters, then this all are happening because the humans are interfering. So it should, the human land, because they're using the land for residential areas or even large commercial developments. So whenever we're developing the city, so we plan both of these um, places, and that's how we are using the land. So because we are using the land, it should not, we cut the trees, and that's how the ecology is disturbed. So in order to balance this, we have to study all these parameters. Then if you're using both of these, land and water, then should the large intensive developments be located? Now whatever you're going to develop, in case of commercial or residential areas, whether they should be upland or valley areas. Mm, in what place you're going to develop, because the topography is different. So whether it should be upland or valleys, and how to conserve that, how to conserve land and how to conserve water, and uh, to what extent you can conserve the riparian conservation. Okay, so now the riparian conservation is nothing but riparian area is the area next to the water body. So if there is a water body, whether we can provide, in what best way can we use the water on the land next to this water body is of a concern. That's called as a riparian system or riparian conservation. Okay, so riparian conservation is the utmost parameter, and how the human land, if a riparian is conserved, then how it can affect the human land use, that is also studied. And what are the economical economic and environmental quality. So if you're trying to use this land as water, so how will be the environmental quality when you're safeguarding, and what would be the land use? So of course the land use would be obviously commercial, residential, agriculture, and forest. So all the land use is associated with this, so how it is going to balance the economic and environmental quality also. And the third one is the next step is uh, adverse effects. So what would be the adverse effects on the hydrology, aquatic ecology, and water quality? So can these have an, if we are trying to use the land here for any other things like agriculture, residential, commercial, or urban, then how it is going to affect the hydrology, aquatic ecology, and water quality of the urban areas. Now, whether the sometimes the urban areas are situated upstream and downstream, so both things should be managed. So how are the going approaches going to be managed? That is studied here. And if there is any threshold site, okay, if there is any thickly populated places, okay, when you compare our place and if you compare any metropolitan cities, so metropolitan cities are all having too much of residential and commercial areas, so that is the threshold size because the area is less and population is more. So if that is the case, then how do you again manage the ecology effects? And then if there are flood risk, so if there are any flood risk, so how do you, if there's too much of floods, then how do you conserve the aquatic life in the stream? That would be a point of concern. And if there are any economic limitations and ecological benefits. Okay, so if there is no too much of economic limitations, so you cannot spend more and you have to conserve in that particular budget. So in that case, and at the same time you have to see uh, the ecological benefits, it has to be less price, budget also should be less, at the same time benefit also should be more in the ecology. So you have to save that also between the waterways and the commercial. You want to save the water also, and at the same time you want to make it commercial use also, that is commercial urban and agricultural land. Then what are the different economical development? So economical development and that are made by the decisions and which are again irreversible on the landscape. So if you're trying to develop if you're trying to develop the landscape, which is again irreversible, it has to be economical development also. So the main agenda of development objectives, so if you're trying to again develop the water resource management here, again, if your the main objectives is main is national goals, so there is all the national goals are made, then again those goals are being used here. Okay, they are used to be, they are assessed. Okay, if whatever issues are there, whatever problems are there, water resource problems, and they are assessed here. Then with the respect to this assessment, again, whatever the problems are, with respect to the problems, solutions are made. So solutions are nothing but in the form of policy, strategy, or any work plan action. So again, policies, I mean, again, that policies are implemented, so they're used here. So here the problem is studied, then strategies or plan is made, here the implementation of plan is made, and then actions of implementation. So here implementation of the plan, so how do you going to implement it, is all trial and method is made, and then actions are made um, for implementations. So once it is implemented, then it is again monitored thoroughly for evaluation of the progress. Okay, it is monitored and evaluated properly. So whatever plans are being implemented on, again, of course, again these are nothing but monitoring and evaluation means whatever plans is made, it is checked. Okay, and then the balance is made between the uh, person using it, that is human beings, and available water which is in the natural river system. And then again it comes back to the, again once it is monitored, again if there is any flaw, again the national goals are changed, and again this is cyclic. Okay. Okay, so then the finally the water resource planning and management final report. Okay, the final report should contain all these parameters. So there should be a discussion of water resource management issues. That means the problem should be discussed, and then there are many list of strategies or the plans made in order to address the problems. So here all the plans are made, list of strategies, I think, but the working plan. And then after making the working plan, we are going to improve. Okay, there is a need for improving the quality of the water resource. Okay, this is, and finally most important is the models are adapted. So whatever models are being made, again they are made for again interaction, that is ecological interaction, and at the same time land and water management. Okay, thank you, that's all for today.